What would you do if you were told you had only 3 weeks to live? Cry? Panic? Or would you book a luxury vacation and live like a millionaire? That's exactly what Georgia Bird does in The Last Holiday, a feel-good comedy that flips tragedy into triumph and fear into freedom. We'll walk you through the entire story of Queen Latifah's unforgettable journey, from a shy cookware salesperson to a fearless woman living her best life. Our story begins in New Orleans. Georgia Bird, played brilliantly by Queen Latifah, is a humble, soft-spoken sales clerk at Cragen's department store. Her days are routine, her wardrobe modest, and her dreams stuffed away in a scrapbook titled Possibilities. Georgia isn't just a woman with bills to pay, she's a woman with dreams. Dreams of traveling the world, becoming a chef, singing on stage, and maybe, just maybe, getting noticed by her coworker, the charming but shy Sean Williams, played by LL Cool J. But Georgia's too afraid to take risks. She follows recipes to the letter, plays the organ in church, and cooks gourmet meals for herself, only to eat lean cuisine while her beautiful dishes sit untouched in the fridge. Why? Because life, she believes, just isn't meant to be extravagant, not for someone like her. That fear of what if has kept her quiet, careful, and stuck in a life half-lived. Then one day, her life is turned upside down. Georgia hits her head at work. It's a minor fall, but it lands her in the company clinic. After a rushed CAT scan on a second-hand machine, the diagnosis comes in. You have multiple rare brain tumors. You have 3 weeks to live. In one soul-crushing moment, everything changes. Suddenly, Georgia is invisible at work. Her dreams, her possibilities, feel like cruel jokes. Even the man she silently adored, Sean, doesn't know how to reach her. She tries to tell him, but words fail. She walks away. At home, her life flashes before her eyes. All the dreams she never chased, the places she never visited, the risks she never took. And then she snaps. In a brilliant twist, Georgia cashes out her life savings, liquidates her 401k, and empties her bonds. The total? Over $35,000. So what does she do with it? She books a first-class ticket to the Grand Hotel Pup, a real-life luxury resort in Karlovy Vary, Czech Republic. Why? Because it's where her culinary idol, Chef Didier, works his magic. If she's going to die, she's going to feast. Georgia doesn't just travel, she transforms. She tosses out her old wardrobe for European haute couture. She trades humility for high heels. She stops being afraid of attention and instead commands it. On the plane, she's already creating waves, chatting with elites, sipping champagne, and dishing out wisdom like a sage in Chanel. When Georgia arrives at the Grand Hotel Pup, the staff assumes she's somebody, a wealthy heiress, a secret investor. She doesn't correct them. Meanwhile, we meet a group of elite guests. Matthew Cragen, the arrogant CEO of the store Georgia worked at, his suspicious assistant Ms. Burns, smooth-talking Senator Dillings, and the stern concierge, Miss Gunther. All of them think Georgia is loaded, because how else could she afford the presidential suite and a week's worth of fine dining? Cragen is suspicious. The senator is intrigued. Chef Didier is in awe. Why? Because Georgia eats, not with guilt, but with joy. She embraces the art of flavor, not just the science of calories. In a hilarious and moving dinner scene, Georgia asks for everything on the menu. When Cragen asks for whatever she's having, Chef Didier tells him, no, she's having it all. Chef Didier falls in love, not romantically, but professionally. Here is someone who respects food, life, and art. Georgia begins living like there's no tomorrow, because in her mind, there isn't. She snowboards down dangerous slopes, badly, gets a full spa makeover, jumps into a sky tram, and even base jumps off a dam. She's terrified, but she does it anyway, and people notice. She wins over the staff with kindness, impresses the hotel guests with her honesty, and baffles Cragen, who can't understand why this mystery woman is suddenly the center of attention. The senator starts to admire her integrity. Miss Gunther warms to her grace. Even the spa attendants want to be like her. Why? Because Georgia isn't chasing status, she's living in truth. And that kind of courage is magnetic. Back in New Orleans, Sean is confused. Georgia quit her job without warning. But when he finds her scrapbook, her possibilities book, everything clicks. He realizes how much she's longed for, how much she never said. And he decides to find her. Cue the romantic momentum building toward part 2. Georgia's confidence soars, but the weight of her diagnosis still lingers. She's changed lives at the hotel. She's reconnected with herself. She's stopped being afraid. But Cragen, ever the corporate cynic, digs into her past. He suspects she's a con artist. His goal? To expose her before the hotel board votes on a lucrative new project. Meanwhile, Georgia is still hiding her own truth, that she's dying. She hasn't told a soul. What happens when her time runs out? What happens when Sean shows up? Will her past catch up to her, or will she redefine her future? Stay tuned for part 2, where secrets come out, truths collide, and a woman who thought she was dying discovers what it really means to live. If you like this breakdown, hit that like button, share it with a friend, and don't miss part 2, coming soon. Georgia Bird has already lived more in the last few days than she did in her entire life back in New Orleans. She's eaten 5-star meals, defied death on the slopes, and impressed a hotel full of elites with her grace, charm, and candor. But the clock is still ticking. In her mind, she has only days left, and the truth she's kept hidden from everyone is growing heavier by the minute. Matthew Cragen, the self-absorbed CEO, can't stand not knowing who Georgia really is. His paranoia consumes him. He thinks she's a spy, an investor, or worse, a threat to his reputation. He hires a private investigator to dig into her past. What he finds? A sales clerk from New Orleans who cashed out her retirement and vanished. Armed with this revelation, Cragen attempts to expose Georgia at a hotel board meeting meant to approve a multi-million-dollar resort expansion. He believes outing her as a fraud will undermine her influence. But when he confronts her in front of everyone, the plan backfires spectacularly. Georgia doesn't flinch. She calmly confirms that yes, she was a sales clerk. She was modest, underpaid, overlooked, and she thought she was dying, so she came to live. Her honesty silences the room. The board members look on in admiration, not shame. The staff, guests, and even Chef Didier are moved by her bravery. And then something miraculous happens. The hospital back in the States calls. The scan was wrong. The machine was faulty. Georgia is perfectly healthy. No tumors, no death sentence, just life. An entire future, restored in a heartbeat. But Georgia is devastated. She isn't joyful. She's angry. Angry that fear kept her small for so long. Angry that it took a fake diagnosis to make her finally live. She spirals into doubt, shame, even guilt. What now? Her money's gone, her vacation's ending, and the fantasy is over. But then something beautiful happens. One by one, the people whose lives she touched begin to show up for her. The hotel staff gives her a free stay. Chef Didier invites her to work in his kitchen. The senator asks for her opinion on policy. Even Miss Gunther hugs her. Georgia isn't a fraud, she's a force. And then, the final twist, Sean arrives. Yes, her sweet, humble co-worker flew across the world to find her. He confesses everything. He found her possibilities book. He saw her dreams, her recipes, her sketches. He didn't just miss her, he realized he loved her. Always had. He just didn't know how to say it. In the film's emotional peak, Georgia tells Sean the truth. I'm not dying, not anymore. He smiles. Good, because I was just starting to live. They kiss, and just like that, the fantasy becomes real. Not because Georgia is rich, or bold, or famous, but because she is finally, unapologetically, herself. The story fast forwards to Georgia back home, but this time, she's not working retail. She's opened her own restaurant, Georgia's Joint. The food is rich, the music is loud, and the line stretches around the block. Sean is by her side, beaming with pride. And her possibilities book, it's now a menu. Every dream she once shelved, is now on the table. Georgia didn't just take a last holiday. She took her first real steps into the life she was always meant to live. The last holiday is more than a comedy. It's a lesson about the risks we don't take, the dreams we postpone, the moments we waste waiting for someday. Because the truth is, someday might never come. But today is still ours. And that, my friends, is the magic of Georgia Bird's story. If you enjoyed movie The Last Holiday, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder to live fully, fearlessly, and with flavor. Because sometimes the only thing standing between us and the life we want is the courage to start living it.